I'm an inventor of many cancer drugs, anti-inflammatory drugs, heart disease drugs. And as a result, I became well known back then as somebody that was making things happen when nobody else could make it happen. I led the research that discovered the enzyme telomeres. I worked with a team of people. I was actually the person that figured out, that was hands-on, identified it, but I can't say that I did it alone. I worked with a team of people who gave me data to analyze. And but we discovered this enzyme telomerase, and then we put it into normal skin cells grown in a petri dish and showed that they divided indefinitely.
Wow.
So we
Immortal.
called it immortal, but they weren't really immortal. But the scientific definition of immortal just suddenly meant overcoming the Hayflick limit.
Yep.
They could divide and divide and divide, but if you poured acid into the petri dish, they die.
Yep.
So they aren't really immortal. But so then we also, like practically same week, I also did an experiment where I produced what I called the antisense telomerase, and I put that into cells, and I showed that it killed every cancer cell. Killed the cancer cells by essentially making them die of old age.
So the telomeres would shorten on the cancer cells, which is the problem with cancer cells. They don't. Yeah.
Well, so Geron Corporation decided there's a quicker return on investment by curing cancer than curing aging.
Yeah.
And even though I argued that it would never cure cancer, because by inhibiting telomerase, you're going to get the telomeres really short. It's going to make the mutation rates skyrocket, and the cancers are always going to come back.
And stronger, probably. Yeah.
And that, right, harder to fight. And that's exactly what's happening. But I did invent 3 different drugs that are in clinical studies now that inhibit telomeres to fight the cancer. And in the clinical studies, they're finding that the cancers do always come back.
Yeah.
Because
that's the problem with chemo in general, isn't it?
Yeah. But when they decided to focus totally on cancer and stop aging, even though their name Geron was short for gerontology, which is study of aging, they decided to quit working on aging. I left and started Sierra Sciences to focus on the anti-aging. And a few other scientists did the same thing, like Dr. Sue, the aging instead of the cancer. And so I've been now focused for the last 23 years on trying to find a way to produce telomerase in all of our cells, not just our reproductive cells. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so one of the scientists that I was working with after I left Geron, he grew human skin on the back of a mouse.
Oh, yes, Ron DePino. Is that?
No, well, this was first Walter Funk.
Oh, yes, yep.
Walter Funk, he grew skin on the back of a mouse. He treated with telomerase and showed with every method of measurement imaginable that the skin age reversed. He was able to reverse the aging of skin on that human skin grown on the back of a mouse. Now, contrary to popular belief, mice do not age like humans. Okay?
No, they don't.
Telomeres and telomeres have nothing to do with mice aging. But Dr. Ron DePino created an engineered mouse that did age by telomere shortening. And then when he treated those mice with telomerase, they had what he quoted as a remarkable reversal of the aging process in an interview he did with Diane Sawyer on the news. I don't know if Diane Sawyer is well known in New Zealand.
No, I've watched the interview, though. It was fascinating to see those mice.
Very famous news broadcaster here in the United States.
Yeah.
But you know, I thought, well, God, it's not going to be any trouble to find funding at all. And I was able to find funding long before the Ron DePino experiment. I ended up finding investors. Everybody, you know, I was National Inventor of the Year for my cancer research. I did all these. I have so many clinical studies that I've been participating in and things like that. So I didn't have any trouble finding investors, but investors invest in the person, not the business. And all the investors looked at me as a way to make a lot of money. So they, instead of having me do what I want to do, they had me do what they want to do. And that was try to come up with products that would
make them money.
that investment. And then when we succeeded at doing that, first thing they want to do is sell the company. It just was a nightmare. The system doesn't work. Okay.
Yep.
One of the investors, I guess I shouldn't mention names of investors and stuff like that. One of the investors engineered, who was very interested in me doing the research I want to do, engineered a plan on how I was able to take over the entire company and become 100% owner. And now I am 100% owner. But I decided there's no way in the world I was going to let traditional investors get back. I didn't want financial return on investment to overwhelm
the
humanitarian reverse on return on investment. And I had complete control of the research. So that solved that problem.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah.
But
Because you need to be the freedom of having, because yours is a mission to save billions of lives and to, you know, slow the hands of time and to reverse aging, which is the biggest problem we have on the planet besides all the wars and stuff. But if you look at just the fact that we're all aging, we're all dying, this is the biggest frontier that there is, in my opinion. And why isn't everybody focusing on this? Because if we can, most people think we can't stop aging, we can't reverse it, we can't. When I talk to people about anti-aging, they think it's a skin cream. They don't understand that we have the scientists like yourself now that are actually doing stuff that is, you know, going to give us the ability to live, well, however long. I mean, you can still get run over by a bus, but you don't have to age, and most importantly, you don't have to have this horrible decline. And that's within our grasp now, if you can get to focus on the research and get the funding for the research, you know, so that you can stay purely on that. So I totally get that model, and that it is a problem, you know, when investors get involved.
The go-to-market partners were never able to produce the amount of funding that I did have, but I kept thinking, just bring in more and more and more, and I'll get more. And then the COVID pandemic started, and that hurt all their businesses, and my funding plummeted. I've been still trying to get more go-to-market partners, but I have not been. And then one of the key ones, the founder of Isagenix, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly, and then I lost the royalties from that because the company reorganized and decided that they were going to focus on a lot less expensive products, okay? Because it costs a lot of money to produce what I call telomerase inducers, okay? And so Isagenix was selling a product called Isagenesis that, and so was Basale. They were selling a product called Premier that actually was nutraceuticals that would get inside your cell, induce the production of telomerase, and lengthen telomeres. And I got to come back and explain why I got a lot younger because of that. But it was just expensive to make those products. And you know,
you've like screened, like, well, last time I heard in the last interview, I think 600,000 molecules, both nutraceuticals and drug based products, that you've looked at all of these molecules for telomerase activity, and you've actually found 900 odd of these.
So far we found 900, not counting the nutraceuticals, but we found maybe 50 at the most now nutraceuticals that will do it. But I said I'd come back to why, even though these products are lengthening telomeres, why aren't people getting a lot younger? And that's because aging is like a tug of war going on inside your body, okay? And let's focus just on telomeres. You've got a tug of war where if you have, like in your reproductive cells, you have a tug of war where you have people pulling on a rope that are going to cause your telomeres to shorten. Then you also have people pulling on the other side that are causing your telomeres to lengthen. In our reproductive cells, that tug of war is a tie. Okay, the lengthening and shortening is the same, so the telomeres don't change in length. But as soon as we are conceived, okay, we lose all the people on the side that are pulling the length in our telomeres. Telomerase completely shuts off. Now it's just a one-sided tug of war, and they're pulling. Now, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to add people back to the side to pull, but I haven't been able to add enough to win the tug of war. Okay, just slow it down. Okay. And so that's what the products that are on the market right now by all the different companies, they are slowing down, even though they're lengthening telomeres. So what happens during a cell division, telomeres shorten and then they lengthen. They shorten and they lengthen. Okay, so they are still shortening. Now we're just lengthening a little bit back.
Yeah.
Shorten again, they lengthen a little bit back, but they're still losing that tug of war. They're just losing slower. What I want to do is I want to continue my research to find something that wins that tug. And I mean, you talked to Liz Parrish, okay, and she is running a company right now that is focused on gene therapy that is now a way to lengthen the telomeres, okay, to win that tug of war.
To actually win, like
Yes.
to actually 100% put back on what you're losing so that you're staying same and even growing telomeres.
Well, right. Yeah, but she's actually, she could. The problem is the dose. How much dose do you use? How delivery to all the cells, things like that.
Yep.
And it in my clinical protocols that I've written up for this, to get that right dose and to get the most number of cells treated as possible, it's essentially would cost me $1 million per dose. Okay. Yep. And just people haven't come forward with that amount of money. I can't tell you how many families I know who had relatives with Alzheimer's that were like billionaires that decided not to get treated with this gene therapy because they'd rather wait and see if it worked on somebody else. And then their relative with Alzheimer's died in the meantime. And it's just like crazy, but it's like it was an opportunity, but still we were never able to raise the funding to do that. But, you know, I don't want to be somebody that cures just the wealthy. I want to cure it. And so my focus has been on trying to develop a nutraceutical or pharmaceutical that will only cost 10 cents to treat a person. And so that's the 600,000 different chemicals I screened. Most of those were designed. So we started with random chemicals. We found a lots that worked. None of them won the total war, but we started designing them so they would get better and better and better. And we started extrapolating and found out that we were really only 1 to 3 years away from having something that would be as potent as the gene therapy.
Wow. Wow.
But then pandemic hit and everything like that, and we lost the funding. So we're still looking for that funding. And from all my experience, been there, done that. I'm never going to get it cured if I have an investor that's controlling the science.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I need to be in control of the science. And I just know them 1 to 3 years if I could do it. And what I estimate is it's probably going to, in the business plans that I have, which I don't call business plans because they're not geared towards return on investment, financial return on investment, at least. I call them strategic plans. So my strategic plans show that with $113 million, I could have a drug that would totally reverse aging, cure Alzheimer's, cure muscular dystrophy, cure ALS, cure multiple sclerosis, all these things in 3 years, okay, at the max. So it actually, when I extrapolate, I'm really good at math and statistics and things. I can extrapolation, I can show that the really 99% limits are 1 year to 3 years.
Yep.
Okay. And so I just need to find
You've got the track record to know it. That's the funny thing. Yeah.
And it's, I've got a track record of showing that I can make things done, get things done when nobody else can, over and over and over again. And I'm also been well known for somebody that is really good at budgeting time and expense. So I can tell you how much it costs, when it will be done, and if the money is provided, it gets done at the cost that I said it would cost and the amount of time I said it would take.
Wow.
And it's just the most frustrating thing ever. It's like I'm sitting here, I've got a 10,500 foot lab facility right behind, and the wall behind me is just beautiful labs, fully equipped. And they're practically ghost towns right now because I can't come up with the funding to get the research done.
Yeah, and this is
all goes to those entertaining pretend scientists that have something that they promote that really is not going to cure aging at all. It's going to just maybe reverse one small part of the aging process.
Yep.
But whatever.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people in the way that we go after in modern medicine, we go after single diseases, but really this is going upstream of that and looking at the whole reason we get all of these diseases. And I wanted to discuss with you, because this is something that keeps coming up with telomerase is an enzyme that helps lengthen the telomeres. And there was, because of your research actually into the anti-cancer drugs that you invented, the rumor has come about that telomerase can induce cancer or could cause cancer. Why is that? Couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, it's because of hearsay. It's because of famous scientists that are famous, not because of their science, but because they are on the news a lot. And
Yeah,
stuff like that.
they know how to market.
Nobel Prize winners. So Nobel Prize winners that really don't understand why they got the Nobel Prize to begin with. That kind of thing. They say what sounds right. Okay. And yes, 85 or 95% of all cancers produce telomeres. Okay. Why? Because they want their aging cured too. Okay. So the telomeres didn't cause the cancer. Cell first becomes a cancer by mutation. There's 100,000 different ways of causing a mutation that's going to turn a normal cell into a cancer cell. But that cancer cell is going to age just like anybody else ages. And because it's dividing faster, it's going to age and die of age sooner. So, but because the telomeres get really short as the cells are starting to divide really fast, the mutation rates skyrocket. Short telomeres cause mutation rates at higher rates than practically anything else, except direct radiation or something. So the mutations in these cancers cause all kinds of varieties to occur in the cancers, and some of these cancer cells end up figuring out a way to produce telomeres on their own. And it's usually by a mutation or a chromosome rearrangement. Suddenly, one of those cancer cells is producing telomerase. All of the other cancer cells die of old age, but that one cancer cell grows back and comes back. And that's when you get an immortal cancer, and that's the problem. But it was the lack of telomerase that caused the cancer to begin
in the first place. Yep.
The lack of telomerase that caused telomerase to be produced. And if those cells had already produced telomerase, they would have never become cancer to begin with, and they would have never been able to fight the chemotherapies that exist or the immune system. Our number one defense against cancer is our immune system, and our immune system is really good at it. But because of the mutation rates that occur in cancers, they can always find ways to evade the immune system. And that's the big tragedy. Now, there is a really good video on my website. It's called Tokyo 2017. I spoke for almost an hour just on why telomerase doesn't cause cancer. In fact, telomerase decreases the risk of cancer. I spoke for an hour. That was because the reason why I did this was I speak at continuing medical education conferences a lot. And there was a very high profile continuing medical education lecture that I was giving with 4 other doctors in Tokyo in 2017. And the night before, or maybe 2 nights before my presentation, somebody got all over the news saying that telomerase causes cancer. And it was going to, like, here are already hundreds, maybe 1,000 doctors that already signed up to listen to me talk. I was really surprised because from the airport to the hotel, I saw billboards with my picture on it. Okay. Wow. So this was a really high profile presentation. But suddenly everybody's rumors going around, oh, telomerase causes cancer. What's this Bill Andrews guy trying to do? So I spent all night rewriting my presentation. Wow. And so instead of being like 45 minutes long, it went 1 hour and 20 minutes long, because about an hour I spend going over all the data, everything about why there's such a rumor, things like that. I strongly encourage people to listen to it. I've said it so many times, I know exactly the time. If they start watching
At
the
25
video on
minutes.
my website called Tokyo 2017, it starts at 25 minutes and 25 seconds where I say, okay, I'm going to go off on a tangent and talk about this rumor. And it goes to a little over an hour before I finally get back to the main
The
subject
actual
I was
lecture.
talking about. But that excerpt, it's maybe 45
So that
minutes.
puts that rumor to bed. And so anybody who wants, we will put the links in there because we want to put that one to bed because we need to move on from that. And it's the shortening of telomeres. Otherwise, why would we get a whole lot more cancers, Alzheimer's, all of these things when we're old? We don't get them at 10,
Right.
20, usually. Usually there's some childhood cancers that are the exceptions, but generally we get these things, they are diseases of aging. And that's partly because the telomeres have shortened and are causing the reading of the DNA, from how I understand it, to be faulty and cause these mutations in the DNA.
Exactly. You just described it very well. I can go into more details about how it changes the cell to give off declining aging, not just organ failure. But there's videos on my website too where I go into great detail explaining that. In fact, I encourage you. There's videos on how we age, why we age, what aging is, and how to and how not to age.
And with telomeres, because we've got these, well, I don't know how many years now, 12, 14 hallmarks of aging. It keeps changing. But at the basis is telomere attrition, because everything else is sort of, we have to cure that one first in order to affect the other things. The others are mostly inflammation, oxidation, sort of downstream effects. I think the immune system is another one that, like we in our company, Avum, we're going after the immunosenescence story to try to, but again, we have to solve the telomere problem if we're going to actually influence the rest of them. Would you agree with that?
That's exactly what I said before about wear and tear. All but telomere shortening is one of the hallmarks of aging. All the other ones are essentially things that cause wear and tear. And if we could keep the telomeres long, we wouldn't have to worry about the wear and tear because we can always replace the worn and torn cells. And so it's like, Ron DePinto, actually, this guy that I talked to about, he created those engineered mice. He actually did some other studies where he actually, I can't remember if it was published or just a press release, where he actually said telomeres are the kingpin of aging.
Yeah, that's a good.
And we've done a lot of studies here looking at biomarkers of aging and stuff like that. And we show that these biomarkers all get reversed by re-lengthening the telomeres in the human cells in the petri dish. So it might be that everything about the hallmarks of aging could all be gone away if we would just lengthen telomeres. But that may or may not be true. I wouldn't be surprised if it is very true. But the bottom line that is 100% true is that we will never cure aging unless we also solve the telomere shortening problem.
Exactly.
Because that's a mathematical, unquestionable, very reproducible cause of aging that any lab in the world that works on culturing cells knows that telomeres are shortening and puts a limit on the lifespan of the cells, therefore putting a limit on the lifespan of humans. And you can mathematically calculate from that that a human cannot possibly live beyond 125 years. And that's only if they have the perfect genetics and live the perfect lifestyle, which none of us do. So nobody's ever lived to be 100.